Well, there is more damning proof of coronavirus originating from a lab in Wuhan in China, the Wuhan Virology Lab. India today has accessed an explosive video of Peter Daszak, member of the WHO International Expert Group and president of the Eco Health Alliance. In this video, Daszak is boasting about the manipulation of the killer SARS-like coronaviruses carried out by his colleagues in China. He's made the admission at this forum discussing emerging infectious diseases and the next pandemic. He is describing the process of inserting spike proteins into viruses to see if they can bind to human cells, emphasizing that the trials are being carried out by his colleagues in China. It follows growing proof of Wuhan Virology Lab's deep financial and personal ties to Biden's top advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. The WHO expert-controlled Eco Health Alliance was one of the primary proxies funneling the money to the Chinese lab in Wuhan.
Then when you get a sequence of a virus and it looks like a relative of a known nasty pathogen, just like we did with SARS, we found other coronaviruses in bats, a whole host of them. Some of them looked very similar to SARS. So we sequenced the spike protein, the protein that attaches to cells. Then I didn't do this work, but my colleagues in China did the work. You create pseudoparticles, you insert the spike proteins from those viruses, see if they bind to human cells. And each step of this, you move closer and closer to this virus could really become pathogenic in people. So you narrow down the field, you reduce the cost, and you end up with a small number of viruses that really do look like killers.
Well, China's role in designing the coronavirus is increasingly getting nailed. A report by the US government national lab has concluded that the COVID virus could actually have leaked from China's Wuhan lab. The classified report, which found its way to US media, calls for more investigations. Shivarur with this report.
Nearly 4 million deaths. Every country on earth affected. Untold billions in damage. A bleeding world of uncertainty. Could it all have begun right here in a biological lab in China's Wuhan? Was the virus responsible for COVID-19 irresponsibly engineered here and unleashed upon the world by a careless or insidious China? Whatever the reality, the hunt for the truth has just received its biggest boost so far. A US government national laboratory report on the origins of COVID-19 has concluded it is plausible that the virus leaked from a Chinese lab in Wuhan and that this deserves further investigation. The revelation comes in a Wall Street Journal special report quoting people familiar with the classified document. The study, prepared this time last year by the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California, was used by the State Department under President Trump when it began the quest to nail down the origins of the coronavirus. While speculation and finger-pointing have muddied the waters ever since in favor of China, this US report is hugely damning, since this assessment drew on genomic analysis of the COVID-19 virus. The revelation comes just weeks after President Biden said he had ordered his administration to nail down the viral origins. China has totally stonewalled all global attempts to investigate the Wuhan lab. Extremely suspicious conduct, especially on the back of nearly 4 million deaths. The genomic analysis study adds meat to two scenarios widely considered to be the only two possibilities. That the virus either escaped after a laboratory accident thanks to China's extremely poor safety standards, or that it emerged from human contact with an infected animal. The big question now is whether the new report's damning conclusions from over a year ago strengthen the world's pressure on China. Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, among those who've been working to expose the Chinese lab leak theory, among them is a Pune-based scientist couple who have exposed the clear Wuhan lab link to coronavirus. In an exclusive interaction with India Today, the couple gave some compelling evidence which proves that COVID-19 virus may have originated from a lab in Wuhan.
Was the COVID-19 virus made in a Wuhan lab? Is the coronavirus China's biological weapon? Are Chinese authorities hiding facts from the world? These are some of the questions that the world has been asking since more than a year. As the world awaits answers, a scientist couple in Pune have made some startling revelations. Dr. Monali Rahalkar and Dr. Rahul Baholikar claim that they have evidence to show that COVID-19 virus originated from a lab and not from a seafood market in Wuhan. And they are basing their findings to extensive studies. The couple say they have found that a close relative of SARS-CoV-2 virus was collected from a bat-infested mine shaft by the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China's Yunnan province. 6 miners who were hired to clean it were infected with a pneumonia-like illness. 3 of them subsequently died. According to the Pune couple, Wuhan labs were experimenting on the virus, and there is a suspicion that they did some changes in the genome of the virus, making it deadlier.
In China, in the southern region, there was a mine shaft in Mojang, Yunnan, and there were 6 miners which were employed to clean the bat feces in that mine. It was a copper mine, an abandoned mine. So they got ill one by one after they cleaned the bat feces, and they had pneumonia. It was a lethal pneumonia, and 3 of them had died.
The scientists claim that Dr. Zhong Nanshan, widely known as the Corona Doctor of China, had substantiated their theses.
He remotely observed these cases. So he did video conferencing, and he concluded that it was a primary viral infection, whereas the Wuhan Institute had said that it is a fungal infection. The conclusion of the thesis was this could be due to a SARS-like coronavirus.
As anonymous Twitter user in India, only known as the Seeker, has also arrived at conclusions that match the findings of the couple.
The Seeker gave us a MSc thesis in Chinese, and it was translated by him by using Google Translator, and from that we came to know the further story about these miners, what happened to them.
The discovery by the Pune scientist couple comes even as global powers are mounting pressure on China to share information on the origin of the virus. Increasingly, the world is veering to the opinion that China has a lot to answer for. With Pankaj Khelkar in Pune, Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, as the world grapples with coronavirus, 18 top scientists have demanded a transparent, independent, data-driven and peer-reviewed study on the origin of the coronavirus. Scientists are challenging the World Health Organization findings that it was extremely unlikely that this virus leaked from a Wuhan lab. They insist this is not an academic exercise but is essential now to fight the pandemic in its future waves. Saikiran Kannan in Singapore gets us this report.
Their face 3 to 5 times every waking minute. In between, we're touching doorknobs, water fountains, and each other.
Matt, no, go up to your room, honey.
So we have a virus with no
A fictional virus.
no vaccine at this time.
And a real universal pandemic, almost a decade later.
Watch this. It's transmission.
The fictional disease is a hybrid of influenza and Nipah that emerged in Malaysia in the late 1990s.
No.
As of last night, there were 32 cases.
But the origins of the real one are still shrouded in mystery. Earlier this year, The WHO's international team found no smoking gun or evidence of an accidental lab leak from its visit to Wuhan in China, the original epicenter of the new coronavirus. Its report drew criticism, and the WHO chief distanced himself from the findings. More than a dozen countries have since called for a deeper investigation to determine how the deadly virus infected humans. And now, 18 experts from the United States, the UK, Switzerland, and Canada have written a letter feeding theories that the new coronavirus might have escaped from a Chinese lab. Back in October, Pune-based researchers Monali Rahalkar and Rahul Baholikar traced the possible origins of the COVID-19 virus to a mine in southwestern China's Yunnan province, where a mysterious pneumonia-like illness sickened workers in April 2012.
The first point is about how China may have already seen small outbreaks that were eerily closer to SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19 as we call it today. This was way back in April 2012. The second point is about how this triggered a series of projects and researchers at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which specifically focused on horseshoe bats and associated coronaviruses. The third point is about the structure and the nature of the virus, which points to a possibility of the virus having been modified in a lab, and the resultant outbreak could also have been because of an accidental lab leak.
Yunnan in China is a natural habitat of horseshoe bats, believed to be hosting the COVID virus. Researchers say it's impossible for them to fly 1,900 kilometers up to Wuhan. Many experts now believe there's a strong possibility that the Chinese labs had already been working on the samples seized from Yunnan.
When the outbreak started, the virus was completely adapted to human beings, and hence there is a possibility that the virus could be modified in the lab, or there could be a backbone which was used for the construction of the virus.
Further, microbiologists found startling similarities between the Yunnan illness and COVID-19.
Our story today focuses on three different sets of findings, shared exclusively to India today by eminent scientists and researchers from across the world who work for the biggest of institutions.
An eminent American microbiologist and biosafety expert, Richard Ebright, insists the Wuhan lab could have been involved in manipulating coronaviruses. Chances are that the bug that caused this pandemic is much older. Only a broader, independent investigation could firmly conclude. Was its spillover into the human population natural, man-made, or accidental? A report by Sai Kiran Kannan from Singapore for India Today.
And some news just coming in. IIT Delhi researchers have said the possibility that COVID-19 could have originated in a lab can't be ruled out. The team of researchers led by Professor Biswajit Kundu has said that they believed while it is very hard to conclusively state whether this virus is of natural or lab origin, the paper on lab leak theory by IIT Delhi researchers was published in journal BioRifts and then withdrawn. Well, as COVID continues to take a toll, secret Chinese military research papers accessed by US State Department have now hinted at a biological weapon plot. Several UK and Australian media reports have said China was exploring possibilities of using coronavirus as a biomedical weapon as early as 2015. Take a look at this report.
As the world continues to battle the seemingly endless coronavirus pandemic, here comes a bone-chilling revelation. The Chinese military considered weaponizing the new coronavirus years before the pandemic struck the world. That's the finding in a study by the US State Department. On the record and very damning. Chinese military scientists have said for years that the Third World War would be fought with biological weapons. The PLA paper fantasizes that such a bioweapon attack could topple an enemy country's public health system. The bombshell document also suggests that SARS, which hit China in 2003, could have been a man-made weapon unleashed by terrorists.
The recent reports of the Chinese capability to have a biological warfare unleashed on the world is not surprising. Biological weapon has been very effectively used to maim the economies and cripple economies of world as a targeted.
Experts argue that the secret documents are a reason why Beijing has been reluctant to allow a transparent probe into the outbreak of COVID-19 in Wuhan in 2019.
China, जो कि अपने कहते हैं ना जितने पाँव फैलाओ जितनी लंबी चादर होती है, वो केवल ओवर एम्बिशियस हो रहे हैं. वो चाह रहे हैं एक सुपर पावर बनना. उन्हें पूरे देश, पूरे दुनिया में कहर मचा रखा है.
Reports have so far blamed the Chinese wet market in Wuhan as a source of the virus. Was COVID-19 a result of an accidental release of the virus kept for military use? Bureau Report, India Today.